In the early 2000s, when I was in my early 20s, I had this dream. I was standing on top of a hill with three crosses. There was a man standing to the right of me. He told me to watch. I watched as thousands of men who were standing at the bottom of the hill, dressed in clothes that Catholics would wear, start making their way up the hill. As they were walking, the terrain became very rocky and jagged. They had to get on their hands and knees because they could no longer stand up and just walk up the hill. As they were on their hands and knees, I saw them struggling so hard to make it up there. Their hands were bleeding, their knees were bleeding, they were crying, they were breathing heavily. They were having such a hard time. I heard some of them cry out, begging for forgiveness. You could hear all of them, all to the right of me and to the left of me, thousands of men crying out for forgiveness. I felt sorry for them and started crying because I knew whatever they were asking for forgiveness for was not going to be forgiven. Whatever they had done was not forgivable. As they were slowly making their way up the hill on their hands and knees, screaming and crying, as they made it to the top of the cross, one by one they stood up. As they stood up, there were soldiers behind them with guns to their back. They were pleading and begging, asking God for forgiveness with their hands up to the cross, begging God to forgive them. In my gut, I knew that they weren't going to be forgiven. I don't know what they did, but it wasn't good. And as those soldiers had guns to their back, I woke up. And when I woke up, I realized that this dream was for the church. And at this point, I had no idea what they did. But the dream came about a few weeks before the sexual abuse scandal came out in the Catholic